Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for spooky things and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
I love you have the guns this time.
It's
so
like
just,
pew, pew, confetti
pew.
popping out of my arms.
Oh, like gender reveal, like confetti type
Yes,
things.
but
Okay.
nothing causing damage to the environment because they're my hands.
Exactly.
I will say, you two have gotten way more like gesticulation hand like animated
Oh.
now that you know for a fact these are going on YouTube. I love it. It's great.
We got to give him the handography, you know.
Yeah. Ooh.
Handography. This is the specialty.
Sorry,
if you're-
podcast listeners.
I truly was about to say the same thing. You got to watch us on YouTube to see all the fun stuff. Well, today is going to be a doozy of a day because we are talking about the 2022 American psychological horror film Orphan First Kill.
Dun-dun-dun.
You just have to do the voice with it. It's like Orphan First Kill. It's like a video game.
Yeah,
love
like
that video game.
finish him.
Yes,
Ooh,
and Mortal
that was
Kombat
good.
is my jam. If y'all don't know, now you know. I love Mortal Kombat, and if they had an orphan as one of the avatars for Mortal Kombat, that would be fantastic.
I want a Mortal Kombat game or like a Street Fighter game where you can choose like slasher horror villains, like
Yes.
to watch like Esther go up against like Valak, like Esther versus
Oh.
Valak, fight.
And Valk is just throwing Bibles at Esther.
Yeah, or like crosses like ninja stars.
Yes.
Wait, what would Esther's thing be?
Oh.
I don't know. Like maybe you get like dizzy from the black light.
I feel like she
Or
would
like
have
paint
kind of
supplies?
yes, or like an Ant-Man thing because she's already her thing is that she looks like she's smaller and she's not. So she could
Oh,
get
sure.
smaller and get into your body and destroy things.
Yeah,
and
maybe
then
she's
come out of her
super
body.
fast too.
Yes.
Oh man, I love
Somebody
this.
needs to make this happen for us / give us the money for the credit for thinking of this. So yes.
Thank you.
But
Thank
Nikisha,
you,
I
and
I
good
do
night.
want to say, I mean, if you're watching us on YouTube, your spooky background is pretty spooky.
We love a
Ooh.
spooky background. You just go on YouTube, find Halloween themed background, and it'll run one for 8 hours.
I love it.
Amazing. So, Orphan First Kill is directed by William Brent Bell and written by David Coggenshaw. And this movie stars the orphan herself, Isabel Furman, Julia Stiles, she's not dancing, Rossif Sutherland, and Matthew Finlan.
Was that the hop?
Yeah, what's her dance in Save the Last Dance? The hop.
The hop.
She does the hop.
Oh my god. Oh,
Oh,
cry.
it's such a like the greatest worst movie.
but oh my god, me and my friends were obsessed with that
course.
stupid dance. We tried to learn the choreography.
So
Great
Oh,
time.
it's so embarrassing.
I only watched it for the first time during the pandemic on Jamie's suggestion. She's like, "You have never seen Save the Last Dance?" So I watched it for the first time. The only scene I'd ever seen was her audition scene from that movie.
Of course.
Yeah,
Because of social media.
100%.
Can I ask, is that what it's like to do a dance audition
Nikisha.
at Juilliard?
Absolutely not. First off, you're a dance major, but you're specifying in a certain dance, and I would like to say she was doing a myriad of dance styles, but even then, that hop. What style is that? Are we hip hop? Are we modern? I don't know which one that is. But I don't think I would personally have put her into the program, but movie magic. That's what
Yes.
we're gonna chalk that
Mhm.
up to. Is
But-
movie magic.
Yeah, that definite movie magic. That's like, oh man. Wait, but you're back on. Speaking of like theater and stuff, you're back on
Yes.
tour.
I am. I'm back with Hamilton now as Eliza. Eliza. So it's fun
That's amazing.
time. I'm excited. I start on Tuesday. I don't know what that date is because I don't know dates anymore because I'm back on the road. And when you're on
Mhm.
the road, there's no sense of time and space. You just go to the next city, and the only constant thing is Hamilton. So check out the Hamilton schedule, and you might see me up there being Eliza, guys. Come say hi.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yes. That's fun times. Well, okay, I have to get us on this orphan train because I personally have so many questions about this whole thing. So, obviously, heavy spoilers ahead for Orphan First Kill and probably the first Orphan as well, because you have to talk about both of them and the relationship with both of them because this is the prequel to the 2009 Orphan movie. Now, Jamie, tell us what the trigger warnings are because there's a lot happening here.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot going on. I mean, there is consistent. We're consistent. There's more insides on the outside.
Mm,
Um, for sure that they're happening. There's some uh reference to child murder. Um,
mm-hmm.
some more of that. But there is also adult murdering that we are observing in this. Lots of blood spatter. Lots of blood spatter.
Lots.
Lots of blood spatter after she like cleans herself up. That
And
just annoyed me. Maybe that's not a trigger warning as much as an annoyance warning. Maybe we should
that's in
we'll
the
consider that for the
yes, the likes and gripes. That's one of the things. But before we get heavy into it, producer Brian, can you give us some words of wisdom?
Oh, yeah. Just general housekeeping. You're talking about general housekeeping, right?
I am, but if you
Okay.
also want to give us words of wisdom,
Okay.
please do that as well.
So first I have to do general housekeeping. Then next I will say, yeah, we talked about already. Follow us on YouTube, subscribe. The videos are going up there. Super fun. You can see our backgrounds and our faces. If you're on YouTube now, hello.
Bye.
Um, some other things that you can do are you can subscribe to us on all podcasting podcatchers. There, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google. And then, of course, follow us on all social media at Talk Horror Pod. We just got to 5,000 followers on TikTok. Anyone who listens to this and follows us on TikTok, thank you so much. We have so much fun there. I haven't posted them yet, but I've been watching through all the Friday the 13th movies, and Jamie and I together have been watching through all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So my mini reviews will be on there sooner rather than later. What a wild ride those two chains are, and they're
Yes.
so wildly different. It's fantastic. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Love it. General out. Yes. Fantastic. So is there any other new things that y'all have watched this week before we get into
So
this?
something magical happened.
Oh God.
We watched Orphan this week,
Mm-hmm.
and about 20 minutes into the movie, I said out loud, "Oh, I've never seen this.
What?
I know the twist.
Yeah.
I've seen the final 10 minutes of the movie probably on like Watch Mojo or something like that.
For sure.
But I had absolutely never seen that movie. I did not know that the
Wow.
kids were so involved in that movie. I did not I didn't know about all of the trauma that the mother and father were going through, like in
Mm,
addition to what was happening to adopting Esther and stuff like that. I really thought I'd seen it. I truly convinced myself that I had seen the original Orphan movie, but I had not at all.
wow.
Yeah, this was my first time watching Orphan, knowing I had never seen the movie, not knowing the twist.
Of course. Yeah.
But don't worry, I got double the twist shock in the second one, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there that we watched Orphan.
Yeah.
I had never seen it before. This week I watched Friday the 13th Part 2.
Mm.
And then Jamie and I watched The Black Phone in preparation for our episode.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's so wild. I definitely watched Orphan maybe only about 2 times. I remember the first time I watched it, I wasn't too thrilled about it, but I watched it again right before I watched First Kill, and I just thought, oh, I'm so happy we're doing this for the podcast purposes. Just watching, and also just watching things through the lens of this podcast, it just makes such a difference.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
definitely enjoyed this watch, my third watch of Orphan, than the first two times. I appreciated it a lot
Mm.
more, and it was nice to watch that and go directly into the second one. So it's been 4 hours of Esther, Lena, whatever her real name is for me, and I got questions. But we do need to do a plot summary of Orphan First Kill. So who's the first kill? Who's up?
Oh,
Who's the first
please
kill?
let me do it. I really want to do this one.
Please.
What's the plot?
Exciting times.
Yes, I will time you. Prepare
Okay.
yourself.
Ooh,
All right.
Brian's
All
got it.
right, indeed. So, producer Brian, you have 2 minutes on the clock. Are you ready, sir?
No.
Yes.
Well, you better be. So tell us, Brian, what happened in Orphan First Kill and go.
We open in Estonia, 2007, at the Sarn Institute, which we learned about from the first film. We basically find out how Esther escaped with the help by accident of an art teacher who makes every possible poor decision that you could make in a situation like that. We'll get into
Mhm.
her, of course. And then she eventually finds her way to Russia, where she convinces everybody after Googling, missing American girls, American Girl dolls. She essentially finds herself being brought back to brought back to America to be with a very wealthy Connecticut family whose daughter had gone missing. Um, really is following like the first movie plot. We're just kind of like
Mhm.
it's fine, whatever. And then halfway through, twist, that daughter was never disappeared. She was killed by her brother, and her mother, Julia Stiles, helped to cover that up. So now, basically, Orphan, Esther, becomes the victim of them. So the tables have turned a little bit. So now Esther's still a psychomaniac. But she's with other psychomaniacs. They're all
Mhm.
doing this so that they can have the father can be like, they're basically tricking the father to avoid him finding anything about this. And this is where Esther learns how to do the blacklight painting and all of that stuff. Long story short, they find out she burns the house down, and then they all fall off the roof, and then Esther is ready to be adopted once again into the world of Orphan.
Yeah.
Not
Good
bad. You got 10 seconds
job.
Oh, I have
left.
10 seconds left. There's a police officer who figures it out and gets shot because he figured it out. We'll talk about, is she a bad therapist? Is she a good therapist? I
That's
don't know.
it.
Yeah. Orphan, first kill.
Oh.
And that's the plot.
Also, misnomer, not her first kill.
I said the same thing. It said that this is Orphan First Kill. And the fact that in the 2007 Estonia whatever's, when she's in the asylum, they say, oh, she already pretended to be a child and
Yes.
burned down a family. So is this like American First Kill? Because maybe that's what it needs to be.
Well,
Mm.
also,
Orphan American First Kill.
so I took extensive notes. Nikisha, we should have watched this together, the three of us, because quite frankly, Jamie and I took extensive notes during Orphan, the first one,
Mhm.
because in Orphan, a couple things were mentioned. One, in one of the previous houses that she was in were the Sullivans. The
Yes.
Sullivans was a family where the house got burned down, all that stuff when the dad would rejected her or whatnot. They found someone with like a scissor in their jaw, like all of the Sullivan family fire.
Mhm.
My question is, the Sullivans, I'm assuming, are between this first kill and the Vera Farmiga family,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, I don't know, because by the time she gets to Vera Farmiga's family, that book has a whole bunch of different men pictures
in
in
it.
Yeah.
it. So, but that also was technically what 2009. I mean, so I guess it could be because she got to the
Yeah.
first family
It
in
seems pretty.
2007.
These seem
It
like
could work.
quick turnovers, I guess. Murder turnovers.
Yeah, but then if it is that quick of murder turnovers, shouldn't somebody have been suspicious by like the third, fourth murder while she's in that orphan house? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I mean, maybe the Sullivans. I actually got your pumpkins behind you got much more smoky. It freaked me out
Oh
for a
yeah, they
second.
did.
Um, but also, were the Sullivans pre-Sarn Institute? I don't know. They
Well,
didn't
did
say
they
it by
say
name.
did they say the Sullivans were in America or
Yeah,
overseas?
Sullivan has to be an upscale family. That's her MO seems to be upscale families in
Right.
America because they have way more behind the scenes issues that distract from the fact that she's a grown woman. Um,
Yes.
and we'll talk about that too.
Well,
But
yes.
yeah.
So then
Uh,
I would agree with you. The Sullivans would be in between Julia Stiles and
Vera
Vera.
Farmiga. Okay,
Mm.
Yes.
cool.
I'll do that. Well, let's get into it. So, first segment of this is likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
And we're already talking about our gripes with the timeline of this, or trying to clarify the timeline. But Jamie, start us off with some of your likes and gripes of this movie.
Yeah. And I will say I have seen this movie before, unlike
Mm.
Brian, a
Yes.
few times. So I did know what was going on. I knew the twist. The first one, I mean, not this
Yes.
one. This
Right,
one
right,
was new. But yeah, I mean, I was like, all right, Esther, show us what you got.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just gonna start off. I cannot. When there is a patient from that psychiatric hospital, why is there always somebody fucking mopping who's also a patient from the
Mm.
hospital?
Mhm,
What
mhm,
is
mhm.
going on? Like, why? Where does this come from? Why are
Right.
they like? What is the purpose of this? Is this like to encourage like doing activities of daily living? I have no idea, but there's always someone mopping in every single hospital, in every horror film, and for some reason it's also always a
A
patient, which
patient,
makes
yeah.
me more upset because I feel like they're taking advantage of somebody. Why are they mopping? What needs
Yes.
to be mopped? How many bodily fluids are like out and about all of like I have never seen so much mopping than I ever do in horror films in hospitals. Like I don't get it. I don't know why. It just like it was the first thing that I saw, and I think
Yes.
I already started off with Brian Remembers. I was just like, why is this a thing? Why do they do this?
Yes.
No idea.
The
So that was
second that
my
they showed the Sarn Institute, I was like, "Oh, we're in for it. There's
It's
gonna be some wild stuff in here."
exactly. Yes.
So that's my first gripe. And then my second one comes immediately after, where my note is literally, why would this dummy art therapist take this job? What the hell? That is a
Right.
direct quote from my notes.
Yes.
I do not understand. Like, the second she walks into this building, she looks like a deer in headlights. Like,
Yeah.
why is she taking this job if she doesn't even understand the population that is supposedly like being served by this institute? Like,
Mhm.
she was just so confused and like in shock the whole time, and I was like, didn't you accepted a job here? Like, did they not tell you what the job was? Like, you
Right.
should know this at this moment. Maybe not the part about like how you're replacing someone who was murdered by a patient, but also I feel like that should also have been disclosed
Yes.
prior to accepting this role. But
Yes.
I was like, this person has no idea what like A from B is. Like,
Mm-mm.
it
Mm-mm.
was just like wildly frustrating. And even I, in my studies as a young pre-licensed social worker, knew what I was getting into in my internships. Like, I worked in a
Mm.
behavioral health hospital
Yes.
in a very underserved community. There was all kinds of shenanigans happening there, but I knew that because I knew what I was getting into. As a person who's supposed to get paid for that job, like I just don't. I truly can't. And then my second note was literally, this therapist is a dummy. I like couldn't. I couldn't handle her between like, I mean, I truly couldn't handle her with this job. But then every decision she makes is just like the opposite decision that normal human people make. Like she gets
Yes.
into her car, she sees Lena / Esther, she gets out of her car. You drive away.
You
Why are
drive
you getting out of your
away.
car? It's also a blizzard, so it's like cold. Like stay in the warmth of your car. Why aren't your car doors locked? Why isn't your trunk locked? Nothing makes
Nothing makes
sense
sense.
about any. I was like, how did she even get like a degree in being an art therapist? She's too stupid to like function. I just like didn't even understand
Yes.
how she was a human person.
Yeah.
And then drives home and then like doesn't fully lock her car when she parks it, opens the door, her
Leaves
trunk
it open.
she just like leaves her door open. Like every single decision that this person makes is actually just not real life. And
Mm.
so the therapist gets a 0 out of 10 for me for real life people.
Yes.
And real life people decisions.
She wasn't peopling. The people.
No, she was not peopling.
Mm-mm.
Some other thing, I mean, things that didn't surprise. Well, I was surprised that this family was like wildly wealthy, but I guess in the first one, they're not like I don't think they talk about being specifically wealthy in the first one, but their house is
Is
like
huge.
very
Yeah.
nice.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm assuming that they are like very well off. How on earth is Lena Esther finding these like very rich families to take advantage of? Like it's like through sheer luck. She's
Yeah,
not like
she doesn't
doing
know.
anything.
Yeah. This
Right.
should be called Orphan Pure Luck because she ends up with two of the
Hey,
most.
it's not your turn
You're right.
yet.
I'm sorry.
Obsessed.
No, but yeah, it's like the situations that she finds herself in. It's like, how did you know that you were going to end up with like the wealthiest families? I mean,
Mhm.
between their son's name being Gunner and his primary hobby being fencing, I knew that they were rich. And then
Yes.
the fact that that's some like white people stuff. And then the fact that here's the thing, the true kicker, but obviously it's connected to the twist. My biggest like gripe in the beginning was, how on earth are they not conducting a DNA test for this girl? Like that is my assumption. That would be the first thing that they would want to do because, like, I mean, I also listen to a lot of some true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there who will like call into the hotlines and like, like say that they know things or like, try to not, I don't think many people try to pull themselves off and say like, oh, I'm really your daughter. But like, I
Mhm.
do feel like DNA testing can, mitigate this
A lot.
particular issue. So it just, I wrote no fucking DNA test. They're obviously rich. What are they doing?
Truly.
Because it didn't make sense to me. My notes
Truly.
are unhinged. I'll just say that.
Obsessed.
So is the therapist a like or a gripe? The therapist has a lot of expectations for this very young child who just experienced a trauma and seems
Yes.
very pushy. So I didn't like how pushy she was, and I didn't feel like that was realistic. And I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I also like I don't work with, the police. I don't work in like crime. I mean, I have a history of criminal justice work, but I've never like worked
It's
directly
like
with the police.
I'm sorry, I sound like you were gonna say I have a history of crime, but
All right, so everyone has to do a background check on me now. I don't have a history of crime, I promise.
But so Jamie, based on this, would the therapist join our Hall of Fame of bad therapists?
So I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think that she reaches the threshold of the other therapists like at all because like they were actively using their tools and skills for evil. And that I think is what makes the Hall of Fame. I don't think that she was trying to be intentionally malicious. I just think that she was like, I don't know. She was just very pushy and like caught up in, like this person's been missing and now they're found. And like, we want to get to the bottom of it. We want answers. We want explanations. And I would say that that feels more like her stuff and not like Lena Esther's stuff. If that was truly Esther. So like the difference is like as a therapist, like, yeah, we're human, we're people. We want to know things, but
Yeah.
are we asking questions because we want to know as like us, as us people? Or are we asking questions as the us people?
As us.
Or are
Yeah.
we asking questions as the therapist to try to like, get context or help a client get clarity on something? Like there's a difference between the intention behind the work that we're doing.
For
And
sure.
and this felt more not selfish, I would say, but it felt more about the therapist wanting to know what happened versus trying to help the family and trying to help Esther with like processing the trauma of potentially being kidnapped and taken across the
Mm,
world and going through this whole ordeal. So I
Mhm.
don't think that it makes the cut for worst therapists ever, but she could use some of her own consulting.
the therapist could use a therapist.
Yes, yes, for sure. And then my only other gripe was when Esther gets in the car and turns on the radio, and then Maniac is playing, and she turns it all the way up, and I just wrote Maniac, really? But yeah, other
Yes.
than that, I will say I loved the plot twist. We fully paused the movie to like cackle and scream. It was so
Yes.
exciting.
Oh,
And
so good.
I'll leave it at that.
Amazing. Brian,
Yeah,
give it to
my
us.
my biggest gripe with this movie is that I'm sorry, she doesn't look like a child anymore. It's
Mm.
really
Mm-hmm.
so. Here's the thing: it's really hard to stomach that everyone's just like, what did she say? She's like, "Does your mom work here?" It's like, no, this looks like a 20-something woman. Like, and that's and again, the campiness of like where this movie is interesting and the like I have is that it just leans all the way into it. We saw behind the scenes photos where the whole cast is in platform heels to make her look shorter. Like Julia Stiles and everyone's in like platforms, so like they make her look
Oh.
little. Um,
It's
how?
clever.
Yes,
Mm.
the
She did a body double too.
oh, that's like the Hobbit.
I
Mm-hmm.
was gonna ask about that because never mind. Yes, yes. Keep going.
Oh
Sorry.
no, yeah.
Hmm.
My other like in this movie is I think that the twist is so good and so wild that it totally distracts. I know it's like halfway through, but it
Hmm.
completely distracts from the fact that this doesn't look like a child. Like the scenes
Hmm.
with the dad and teaching her how to paint like are weird because like she looks like a 20-year-old. She's like she was 12 or 13 when they filmed the first one. Like the
Exactly.
twist works, but that's not the twist in this one. And I appreciate that the movie had a twist. I literally my notes are broken into two, if you can see here. The beginning of the movie, holy shit, and then after the twist.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I usually I hate stuff where it's like in Bohemian Rhapsody, it's like it's what if we all just clapped our hands and went boom boom, and it's like you like I just had an epiphany. It was a Bohemian Rhapsody. Oh, let's write a song about it. Like I hate that stuff in like biopics and
Yeah.
movies and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I loved it in this one. I thought that the dad was famous from that type of painting that like with the blacklight. I love that that's the song that she would hum
Yes, in
in the
the
first movie.
bathtub. Hmm.
Stuff I would not have picked up on if I hadn't just watched the first Orphan for the first time. Um, so that a gripe I also have is, and this is a me thing, I hate liars in movies. It
Mm.
it really makes me so upset when somebody lies to someone to like make them believe something else or manipulate them. Like Romeo and Juliet or Orphan First Kill, the two comparable pieces of art from our life from our human race. But like I just hate when people lie and it like I don't know. That's just a me thing. And I know this is movies and I know it's in the character, but it just makes me feel yucky.
Yeah, yeah.
Um I liked just for the twist and the hell of it, I like that the second half of this movie was like she was the victim.
Mm.
Also, I do not like animals dying, even if it's a rat.
Oh, yeah.
Um, like when he called her a mutant grifter. Great line, mutant grifter. Oh, I
Oh
thought some of the
God.
special effects were bad. I don't remember when I wrote that. When they're on the roof and it
Fire.
like looks
Yep.
like they're green screen or whatever it is.
Yep.
Another like all macaws are parrots, but not all parrots are fucking macaws.
Great.
Fantastic. Yeah. The guy who plays the father is Kiefer Sutherland's half brother. Didn't know that until I looked it up. Um,
Nice.
Also, this director directed one of my favorite horror movies and one of my least favorite horror movies, The Boy and The Boy 2, Brahms, or Brahms the Boy 2, or whatever it is.
Man, The
Oh,
Boy, what a bop of a movie.
Boy is
great.
good. Brahms,
Great time.
Wait, also Stay Alive. I have so much nostalgia for that movie.
Never
mm.
seen it.
Oh my
Also,
god. It's like a video whether video games, if you die in the video game, you die for real.
Okay.
Also,
Gotcha.
the director of the first movie also directed The Shallows. If you've seen The Shallows, he the shark movie with what's her name? Blake Lively, which is actually very good. He directed the remake of House of Wax, which is supposedly terrible. I've never seen it.
Oh man, yeah,
Wait.
Chad Michael Murray and Paris
Hilton?
Hilton.
Yeah. He also directed this is an original Orphan movie. They also directed a ton of those like action movies with Liam Neeson, and then they directed Jungle Cruise, which Jamie and I watched on Disney Plus, and
Is
the
that with The
new
Rock?
and then Black Adam coming out this fall.
Oh, work.
So
Okay.
like these directors have movies that like I dig, and these two movies are like wild and have very different points of view, and
Creepy.
and that's my like that these two movies have very different points of view. Even though this is a prequel, we get a totally different twist, and I like that you cannot watch these movies chronologically. You
Yeah.
have to watch them in the order they came out chronologically, not timeline of the movies chronologically.
Yes.
I totally appreciate that because I feel like you can watch the Star Wars movies like in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The twists are ruined for you, but you can still like follow along. Whereas like the second movie is no good, or not the second movie, the Orphan movie is no good because the twist is everything. Um, and these two movies are excellent examples of how excellent acting can save weird ass movies. Vera
Yes.
Farmiga is so good in that first movie that like anything else that and what's her name as Orphan as Esther
Isabel.
Isabella is so good in that first that I keep saying the first one, but you know what I mean. Yeah, in the
Yes.
first one
Yeah.
in Orphan.
The original, yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I had a blast watching this movie. Jamie and I were complaining at the beginning, like, this is just the same movie over again. And that twist, jaw on the floor, blew me away. I was all in for the second half of that movie, regardless of how good or bad it was. And also, like, I think Connecticut is a dumb state. I think Connecticut is just between New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts, three awesome states. You know, they don't have a sports team. They're either like Boston fans or New York fans. They're like in between everything. It's just where people who have money go, as far as I'm concerned. And I love that she's picking off these Connecticut families.
just because of your pure hatred for the state.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, it's this extra couple of hours I need to do to get up into New England. Like, get out of my way, Connecticut.
I
Oh
cannot.
my god.
That was fantastic. Great. I'm gonna keep my likes and gripes short because one, you've said most of my likes and gripes, and two, I can't wait to brains this because I have 1,000 questions. But I will say that my main gripe, and it ties into what Brian was saying about Esther and her age, but it wasn't necessarily her face that made me upset. It was the size difference, because in some of the fuller shots when she's running to hug the parents or whatever, it looks like it's a child body double. And then when she
Sure.
is doing her thing, I had to go online and look up her height. She's 5'3", and you can just see that she is an older, taller person. And so the discrepancy of seeing her and then seeing the body double just was too apparent for me, and that kind of took me out of it a little bit. I also thought the same thing with watching this movie. At first, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be like the first one, all right. And I felt like it was moving really fast because she was getting revealed sooner than, in the original Orphan, which we don't get the reveal until,
Totally.
later on. So I was thinking, okay, well then what's about to happen, because this is moving too fast as far as the plot of her getting found out. And so, like everyone said, I love that it was because there was this other twist and the mom and all of the things. And I love shit like this. I love movies where you don't know who you're rooting for because everybody is bad.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I love the campiness of it all, even with the special effects or whatever. And I think what you said, Brian, is what's resonating most. It's the acting that really gets you out of the mindset of all the other little itties. And even with the art therapist at the beginning, of course she made awful decisions. I didn't mind because the movie, you already know it's going to be so campy that I'm just always down for, if you're going to make a bad decision but the movie is campy, great. But if the movie is trying to be super serious and you're making dumbass decisions, then that's when I get upset. So this one, I was like, oh yeah, of course she's gonna be dumb, and I love it. And she dies because she's dumb. Yeah, that's what this is.
Yeah.
That's what the slasher aspect of this is. People make dumb decisions and they die because of their dumb decisions.
I will
Yes.
say, Nikisha, on that note, I'm texting you the picture of all them in platform heels standing next to her.
Oh
Um,
please.
and two, something that you mentioned that I couldn't agree with more is that the acting and the tone. And to go a step further, you're gonna hate me for this. It
Oh no.
reminds me of Twilight in that
Okay.
even though it's a
Yes.
wild film, everybody's on the same page and they are all in the same movie with using the same tone, the director, the actors, the script. It all just
Mm-hmm.
works together. Whether you like it or not is a totally different like question. But the fact that
Yeah.
it all tonally meshes, and that's why it's an enjoyable experience, even if the plot is wild, even if the twist is crazy. Overall, it is a tonally like concise piece, and I
Yes.
really always appreciate that. And I think you're totally right. It comes down to number one, the actors need to be on the same page with each other and the director. You're
Mm-hmm.
100% right.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I had a blast watching this. I'm happy also because I thought about, should I watch Orphan First Kill and then rewatch the Orphan movie, but I'm happy that I watched OG Orphan 2009 Orphan and then this one, because
Mm-hmm.
it works out better that way, especially with the twist. I mean, it's so good. I'm about to watch this or pull up this picture too. But yes, that's all I have to say for likes and gripes, because I'm just going to ask Jamie a million things. In our next section, brains.
Brains.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So a lot of these are going to bleed into one another. But my first question has to deal with the fact that they stated that she was kidnapped at 5, right? And then 4 years have passed. She is 9. Yes, math. And I just want to know about the development phase, because the actual therapist, not the art therapist, but her actual therapist, um, said that 4 years is a long time in that age range to change. So that's why we can kind of forgive having an accent, or with her intelligence kind of increasing. It's just because of all the trauma that she's gone through. So I just want to know, do you agree with that? Is 4 years a long time in the development of a child? Like, is it believable that she could have changed that much given the fact that she was kidnapped and the fact that the age ranges from 5 to 9?
Yeah, I mean, this is like so hard because you know, my knowledge of like child development is like not, it's just not my area of like focus.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I feel like, I mean, that feels like such a significant period of time where
Yeah.
that does feel like there could be a possibility that things like an accent or, like other, I mean, there's some things that seem wildly far fetched, like
Yeah.
actual skills that she is very excellent at, like piano playing and her
And
art.
painting.
And
Yeah.
yeah, like those things, like her creative skills seem wildly advanced for how old? I don't even know how old she's supposed to be. 7?
Oh, right, because this is,
2
yeah.
years before Orphan, right? So she's 7.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
If I'm, am
Eight.
I? Is
But
that
then
right?
Oh, let me check my notes. Yeah, she's either 7 or 8 in this because she can't be 9 because she's 9 years old when
In
she's
the next
adopted an
one,
orphan.
Right. But
unless
this
they
isn't this
just
2 years before?
it is 2 years before, but then that wouldn't make sense. They said that she
It is
got
2 years.
kidnapped at 5, and then that 4 years had passed. So is she just was in the first orphan movie? Was she just saying I'm just 9 again? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Oh
she
yeah.
could
I
be.
mean, I
Oh
guess
my
none of
god,
it
what is
matters.
Yeah.
wrong with us?
Yeah.
What is wrong with
Well,
us?
she's 32.
Yeah, we're.
Yes.
Oh my god, we're like doing math
There's
that
no,
like doesn't
there's
matter.
no paperwork. What are we talking about?
Oh my god. That is
It's all
so
good.
funny. Oh boy. Okay.
Invested.
Well, now that we had that moment,
Yes.
I mean, generally, if she's like around, if she's supposed to be like 8-ish,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that some of it could be possible. And the memory thing is also interesting. Like the fact that in her sessions with the therapist is like asking, do you remember these events that happened? Do you
Mhm.
remember these things? And I mean, I think for some people, long term memory can start to develop, like I mean, probably more likely at a little bit later, like 6, but like it's not,
Okay.
I mean, like you develop a sense of self like much earlier on. And so like for you to kind of then remember like these experiences with other people, I mean,
Mm.
again, if we're saying that she's like maybe she's smart and like very advanced for her age, like
Yeah.
maybe
Okay.
that
Uh-huh.
makes sense. Um so I don't think it's like totally
Out of
out
the
of
box that she
yeah.
could change and develop in those 4 years, quote
Yeah.
unquote, of
But the
being
piano thing
kidnapped.
and the
Yeah.
painting thing definitely seem like wild.
Okay. But and you're also saying that you can develop kind of core memories that you could remember long term. You said at 4 or 5.
Yeah, like depending on the child, but also like I think I mean it doesn't even seem like there's like for some reason they're like, yeah, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And it's like I don't
Yeah.
think she's going to remember everything. So
Right.
like that kind of bothered me because it's like they're just picking random experiences that they had. Like
Mhm.
how did we know that these are like the specific core experiences that are going to be like, the ones
That they'll keep within
that
them.
will stick
Yes.
in their head.
Yes, of course.
So like that seemed strange. But I guess part of that was just like because Julia Stiles, the mom, is like trying to make sure that they, have their
Pass the
ruse
test
down
with yeah.
effectively and
Mhm.
they
With the
don't get they
therapist.
don't get caught.
Which is totally wild because I absolutely could. I know I couldn't have remembered at 10 years old what I did when I was 5 years old. And it's so true, like you said, you don't know if the same memories that someone else had would be the ones that you keep in the situation. We all remember things differently. It could be the same event with facts, but
Yeah.
it's all you remember stuff differently.
I'll
Go
But
ahead,
like
say
Brian.
milestones are like wild. Like the spectrum for milestones is also like very different for each child. And like while
Yeah.
there are, like there's like a general trajectory that like kids can follow. It's not necessarily even like a marker for like your kid is behind or your kid is like like every kid
Right.
develops differently even within like the bucket of like your kid could do this or they're not doing it yet, but like that doesn't necessarily mean anything just yet. And like
Right.
it's just, so like maybe she was super advanced for her age if that's what they're playing at.
Mm,
But
yeah.
yeah, anyway, I interrupted you, Brian.
no. All I was gonna say is a lot of my memories from youth, from like very young, are based on photographs of those moments,
Mm,
or at least photographs during those vacations or whatever it is. In
Yeah.
addition to, I've heard the story a million times. I do not think I actually remember any of that situation from my perspective. It has all been constructed through stories and photographs.
yeah. That's fair. I mean, it's
Mm.
a lot of life happening. And yeah, what your brain chooses to keep and not keep, it's also not up to you either. So,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
the next question I had, is there an age that is too young to start therapy? Because they insinuate in this that the therapist has known her when she was 5. Said, yeah, because you had the parrot and the thing and whatever. So do you think that's too young to start therapy, especially, I guess, if you're not dealing with any specific trauma?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I think, like, for one, therapy doesn't have to be reserved only for trauma for
You're right,
young
you're right.
people.
Mhm.
There could be other situations potentially that might warrant, or just like, how adults can use therapy for different things. How can kids benefit from developing that type of relationship early in life?
Mm.
But like, I mean, before I answer that question, there's like so many other gaps for me in this family dynamic that, like,
Mm.
I wish I knew about, that make me wonder, like,
Sure.
what about that contributes to potentially Esther being in therapy that young. We don't know if
Yeah.
nothing traumatic happened. Gunner, in my opinion, is a fucking psychopath. So,
Yes.
I or not, well, I guess we'll talk about that,
Yeah.
but there's something up with Gunner, and I would wonder if, like, does that then warrant Esther, the real
Oh,
Esther,
that's
going into
real.
therapy
Yeah.
early in her childhood, because of that. So, like, because there's so much missing from that from that, like, family history,
Mhm.
I feel like maybe there could be something that happened. But to answer your actual question, I don't think that there's any, like, developmentally inappropriate age for a child to start therapy.
Okay.
I think that, like, I think we talked about this in a previous episode, that there's, like, other tools and techniques that therapists can use to work with, like,
With
very young
kids.
children,
Yeah.
like play therapy and sandbox
Mhm.
therapy and things like that. So, like, using different tools to help communicate with kids, even when, like, they can't necessarily communicate in the same way that adults can, but, like,
Yeah.
that there are still things that they can do um to, like, support them and help them, make sense of different situations.
Right. No, that absolutely makes sense. So, with adopting a child, is it a requirement for that child to go to therapy when they are adopted into a new home? Conversely, in orphanages, is there a therapist on staff? Do they have to go and see a therapist in
Shouldn't you
those
know that,
situations?
Eliza Hamilton?
Oh, first private
Yeah, is that
orphanage
part
in
of
New
the
York
training?
City.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The
But that place is
orphanage.
still open, by the way. I, like, after I
No
first
way.
watched Hamilton, I was like, I didn't read the book
Oh,
that Lin
no.
Manuel read, so, like,
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna do some googling, and it still exists, and
Oh my gosh.
it's like a child welfare nonprofit in the city. They, like,
That's
expanded from
awesome.
being the orphanage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ugh,
Not to be
So,
confused
fancy.
with the spectacular horror movie The Orphanage. Have you ever seen
No,
that,
not.
Nikisha?
I've seen it on streaming sites, but I have not
mm,
sat and watched it.
that's
Oh,
a
Watch
good
it.
one.
we may need to. We'll talk about that. That's one of my. That's like
Okay.
a top 10 horror movie for me.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
just
Okay.
it's
that's an
spectacular.
excellent one.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
Anyway, back to the
Yes.
you.
Yes. So
Oh
therapy
yeah,
for adopted kids.
adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so I know I said that I haven't commit crimes but did work in criminal justice. But before I did that, I had the briefest of stints in child welfare,
Mm.
and I worked for a foster care agency. So
Wow.
I was like, oh, I think I even said this to Brian while we were watching this. I was like, oh, I know a thing or two about this process, and
Hmm.
can hopefully recall some memories, not from early childhood, but from that experience.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I think it totally depends on, like, the context of that situation. So, like, for some adoptions, they maybe it's not a requirement for therapy. For some it is, like, a judge
Mm.
might make a court order that the child and the birth parent or the adoptive parent seek individual therapy or family therapy.
Yeah.
like, talk through this very big life transition. And that's, I mean, I know that this focuses on adopting, like, I mean, Orphan specifically highlights adopting like an older child,
Yes.
and like how that can also be like stressful both for the child and the parents. But in the foster, when I worked in child welfare, I actually worked in the what they called like a therapeutic foster care program. So it was
Okay.
actually foster care for kids that like did have mental health concerns and things like that. And there was
Mm.
like additional requirements for foster parents and adoptive parents to do if they wanted to foster and adopt these children in this program. And so
Okay.
like that did include like required classes and trainings that they had to do. So I think it depends on like the the facility that the potential parents are adopting from,
Mhm.
like the rules that the facility has, also the rules of the court if the judge requires certain things. I've had to, and in the program that I worked at, most of the youth that I was working with were not younger children. Most of them were actually on the verge of aging out of foster care, which in New York is actually 21. So you can
Oh,
sign yourself, you
wow.
can choose to remain in foster care
Yeah.
between the ages of 18 to 21. And there's actually a lot of like, there's a lot of benefits that you have access to as somebody who chooses to remain in foster care between
Mhm.
those ages. Like, I think you get priority pick for like NYCHA housing and things like that. The goal at that point is less adoption, more independent living.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, there's still a team, there's still social workers, there's still like other folks in the case managers that are involved in like supporting youth to make sure that like if they want to finish school, like what do they need to finish school? Do they need
Right.
help with like doctor's appointments or other appointments that they might have, encouraging them to continue with therapy, all of these things. So like, you know, I I'm talking about foster care, but I imagine that a lot of that also looks very similarly
In an
with these
orphanage. Yeah.
other with these other dynamics too.
Wow. That is really interesting because honestly, in as a 33-year-old, I've definitely looked into wanting to just adopt as opposed to
Mhm.
have like kids on my own. So it is interesting hearing that aspect. And even after watching this movie, I absolutely think that because I want to adopt, around the 8-9 age
Yeah.
range. And I think that I would absolutely also have a therapist and family
Sure.
therapy with that. I feel like
Totally.
that is something that should be required just to get everybody on the same page
It
Yeah.
for things.
it just goes to show that we can watch movies like Orphan, we could watch movies like The Night House and still want to adopt and own a lake house.
Lake houses and parlors. I'm sure there was a
Oh,
parlor somewhere in that
we want
house.
so much. These honestly, watching these horror movies is probably worse for our like finances in terms of like, you know what?
Right.
I want a parlor, I want a lake house,
Mhm.
I'm going to adopt. I'm
Adopt.
going
Yep. Uh-huh.
not that that movie made you want to, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
No, I think yeah. All right, I'm
But it
gonna
definitely did make
yeah.
me I didn't think about therapy for the child.
Mhm.
So the movie did make me think, oh yeah, that would be something that I am now absolutely gonna do. When I
Totally.
adopt, I will have a family therapist, and we will all be up in that place
Have
having all the discussions.
have I got a therapist for you?
No, it's not going to be
Yeah,
me.
no, it can't be. I understand that.
Oh, okay. Continuing on the therapy train, let's talk about in the first movie, they diagnose Esther with antisocial personality disorder. I just
Mhm.
wanted you to talk about that and how that is different from borderline personality disorder. So let's get into that DSM-5.
Woo! Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
DSM-5. That wasn't Brian. That was Jamie talking about the diagnostic statistical manual. I don't remember what the S stands for.
We're just gonna say
Oh yeah, statistical manual
statistical. Yeah.
of mental disorders.
Yes.
We are on the 5th edition.
Yes.
Fun fact, I still don't own this book because it's
Jamie.
expensive.
Somebody
I only
sponsor us.
have the 4th edition because it was cheaper.
Yes.
Um, but so antisocial personality disorder. So I would say this is like what people when people are talking about like sociopaths or psychopaths,
Yes.
this is kind of what they're talking about when it comes to like the actual diagnosis. Um
Mm.
they so fun fact, because I think it relates back to this movie, um Esther, or Lena, is actually 32, so it makes sense that she would have this diagnosis because you have to be at least 18 years old to receive this
Ooh,
diagnosis.
okay.
But if they're viewing Esther as Esther, the fill in the blank year old, 9-year old, 8-year old,
Yeah.
TBD, she wouldn't be able to get this diagnosis
Okay.
if they're viewing her as a child. But
Right.
there's other there's like other things like for child conduct disorder or like oppositional defiance disorder are like child specific diagnoses, but
Mhm.
also with a lot of observation and therapy before getting to those places. But like sometimes those might more so conduct disorder might be like the precursor to an antisocial personality disorder diagnosis at 18.
Okay.
Um, the main areas of functioning that are impacted are this website calls it self-functioning. I don't know why it calls that, but the idea of like not being able to uh like empathize with others, not being able to
Mhm.
take any like accountability for their actions. Like they're only pursuing things in service of themselves.
Yeah.
And so they're only thinking about themselves. The focus is on like what they want, what they need, their own personal gratification, and like, the sense of positive self-esteem they get from like pursuing and getting what they want.
Yeah.
And then the other piece is about like lacking remorse, lacking empathy. There's just like a fundamental inability to create connection because of that lack of empathy, and not
Okay.
being able to like feel how other people feel.
Yeah.
um so those are like the two big things that like kind of define antisocial personality disorder, um as well as like general emotional detachment. Like just again, they can't if they can't empathize with other people, it's also hard for them to like actually feel certain things. And
Mhm.
so like sometimes like anecdotally people will say that they learn how to like fake it, like pretend.
Yeah.
They can see how other people like portray certain emotions, and so like that's how they learn to kind of navigate through life, because like they themselves aren't actually feeling those things, but they don't want to like seem out of place, and so like
Right.
they learn
Everybody's
how
sad
to.
about this. Let me act like I'm sad too.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's
um
wild.
so so yeah, so those are some things of note. um Borderline personality disorder. There's a lot of, I will also say for all personality disorders carry significant stigma.
Mm.
Generally, I would say BPD carries like the most stigma because it's probably the most commonly diagnosed of the personality disorders.
Okay.
And like there is, I would say, I don't know. There's a lot of stigma within like the therapy world when it comes to BPD, and
Mhm.
like therapists saying that they don't want to work with this population. I'm not saying all therapists, but like as a therapist, I have encountered many therapists that say they don't want to work with this population.
Mm.
And part of that is like some of the characteristics include um, a just like very well, one, like a hard time regulating emotions, and like are very dysregulated, prone to like intense feelings of like worthlessness, um
Mhm.
fear of abandonment, and that really impacts how their connections with people go.
Yeah.
Uh they might not like lash out, but like at any minor slight, like take it very personally and like fully disconnect from someone and be like, "You're done. We're done. Our relationship is done."
Mm.
And again, some of that can stem from the fear of abandonment, and like at the feeling of the slight is like, I'm just gonna like fully like disconnect from that person even before the real abandonment may occur.
Right. Right.
So yeah, like there can be a history of not the most stable of relationships, low self-esteem, self-harm, but like non-suicidal self-harm behaviors like cutting, um, some like risky behaviors. So I would say like those are kind of the two big I don't even know if I would describe those as differences, but like that's just kind of how they look like,
Yeah.
what it looks like.
So do you think that they were right in saying that Esther, because the Sarn institution that she came from was the one who said yes, antisocial,
Hmm.
because they know that she's a grown woman. Do you feel like this movie presented that well or not?
I mean, I it's interesting because in both movies there is this desire, like she wants some kind of like romantic companionship,
Right.
and we see her like feel something for these men that are playing the role of like her father,
Mm-hmm.
or adoptive father, and but like she is clearly attracted to them, which like speaks to some degree of like can form an emotional connection even though it's based on a lie.
Hmm.
There's still real feeling there, which is
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know if it like necessarily falls under a bucket of like, does that then make it more in line? Like, is the needle then moving closer to BPD versus
Then
antisocial?
yes.
But like, I think there's also, I mean, she's very quick to anger and like does
Hmm.
not think through her actions. Um, like
Not at
most of the
all.
time.
Yeah.
Like the only time, like it's weird because there's some times where she seems super calculated, and then other times where it's just like you just changed your clothes, you're totally clean, but then you just smack this person over the head with this like
Yes.
poker, and now you got blood all over your
Now
clean
you gotta
clothes again.
change
You have
again.
to shower again.
Oh, I was
Like,
so
what do
mad.
you think about that? Like,
Yes.
I just don't understand. I don't understand why. Yeah. So, like, there's just like this thoughtlessness in some moments, but
Hmm.
then like this very intentional relationship building in other moments when she like wants to get closer to these men. So, and is it like, I mean, sure, some of it is manipulative, but I think it is coming from a genuine place of like wanting to connect with them or just being sexually attracted. I don't know, but
Yeah.
there's still like something. So I mean, I think she more likely falls under the antisocial personality disorder bucket.
Okay. And last question, super quick. My favorite question. Let's talk about the mother and the son, Billy or Stu. Are they two Billies? Are they two Stews? Are they one and one and one? Tell me about it, because
All
that
right.
is the whole nother thing.
Yeah. Again, there's so much more that I would love to know about what on earth is going on with this family.
Yes.
However, Julia Stiles is 1000% a Billy. She
Great.
is like way calculated and like very intentional and thoughtful about everything that she's doing, and
Hmm.
very, and just verbalize like, yeah, I like, this is the plan, and like
Yeah.
I will go through great lengths to stick with this plan and make it work. And honestly, loved the montage of her being like, I'm gonna train you how to be a child and we're
Yes.
gonna get away with this. I love that. So I think she's a Billy. And I think that Gunner the fencer is a Stew. I think
I
even
see that.
the
Yeah.
scene where he throws fake Esther down the stairs and Julie Stiles is like, "Oh my God, what do you do?" And he's like, "I don't know. She's like
Yes.
he freaks out, and like he's just way more impulsive, which is
Hmm.
like why I'm like, oh, is this what happened with his actual sister? Like he just like got upset and just like flung her, or like did whatever, and was like just went into a
Yeah.
rage, had no control, and like lost it. And then yeah, so like he is not calculated. I think he's too stupid and impulsive,
Hmm.
and shouldn't be learning fencing, and
Also that.
maybe pick a
What?
less murdery adjacent sport.
I
Not
can't.
that fencing is murdery.
It is
As someone who has
murdery,
not
but
commit
still.
crimes, I can't speak to fencing, but I,
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
I don't know.
Wait, so remind me, Billy Billy Loomis from Skeet Ulrich
Scream.
from
Scream.
Scream is the which path is he?
The
Psycho.
the
Path.
psychopath, I believe.
Right.
Yes.
And Stu Macher, aka Matthew Lillard in Scream, is the
Is the
sociopath.
sociopath.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So psychopath, a little bit more calculated. Sociopath, a little bit more like impulsive
Unhinged.
rage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I
Yes.
this is my new favorite segment, Billy or Stu. I'll make
Fantastic.
for our next episode. I'll make a whole thing, but for this one, it's just us saying it.
Love it.
Beautiful. Well, great.
Whew.
Let's Rotten Tomatoes this. I know I've asked Jamie all the things. I could ask you 10 more questions, but we're gonna wrap it up.
This was a there's a lot going on in this.
There's a lot
I'm
happening here.
happy to talk about it.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
Okay, Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think you know what? Guess both of them. Orphan and
Yes.
Orphan First Kill.
Great.
What do you think Orphan has? And what do you think Orphan First Kill has? Okay, so I want 2% answers from you. Nikisha.
I think that Orphan OG09 is an 83. Just gonna throw that number out there. And I think First Kill, I'm gonna say 89.
All right. Jamie.
Spooky dog just walked in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
truly scared.
You probably
Daddy.
heard him. You heard him on my end getting up and like
I
shaking
did.
out, and then he went up to
Mhm.
Jamie upstairs.
Oh man. Man, I was gonna say the same first number. So I'm gonna say 81 for Orphan, and I'm gonna say, what was your number?
89.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say 73.
Okay, so the original Orphan movie from 2009 has a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes.
No, what are y'all thinking?
Oh, wowie.
The-
Oopsies.
The audience score is a little bit higher at 63.
Okay.
But the critics' consensus, again, this is for the original Orphan movie, is while it has moments of dark humor and the requisite scares, Orphan failed to build on its interesting premise and degenerates into a degenerates into a formulaic sleazy horror thriller.
I don't think they
I
got
and this
it.
is bad.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. Okay, so that at a 57. Orphan First Kill, 71%. It's fresh,
Oh,
baby.
wow.
Wow.
It has a 73% audience score, which Jamie said 73%.
Mm.
The critics' consensus is leaning into its ludicrous premise. Orphan First Kill is a sequel that holds its own, and for fans of campy horror, may even represent an improvement on the original.
I think they're both equally great.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a question: do you like the first one better, or do you like this one better?
You know, honestly, I feel that the main reason I loved the second one is only because of the first one, so I can't take them apart as a soul. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have to say that I like them equally because of their relationship with each other. I don't think that the second one or the first one is better than the other. It's just I think that it should be a whole package and everyone should sit for 4 hours and watch
Yeah,
all of it straight through, and that is the whole thing.
sure.
That is your homework assignment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jamie, do you have a preference?
I mean, rewatching the first one, I forgot like how we've watched a lot of movies lately that just like make me very uncomfortable.
Mm.
This it makes you very uncomfortable the way that she is treating those kids. And so I did like the second one more because there was less of that.
Mhm.
But I liked the twist because the twist made me feel a little bit better. because I wasn't like empathizing with Esther. I was just like, okay, like you got now, and like that
Right.
makes me feel a little better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Brian?
I agree with you, Nikisha. I think my watch of the second one was more fun and better, and I think the second one maybe is a better movie overall. But I actually agree with Nikisha when it comes to like their package. This first kill is enjoyable because you got the twist of the first one and you've settled,
Yes.
and then the second one ups on that twist. I don't think the second one is nearly as powerful on as individual watch. Um,
Right.
I also think that Vera Farmiga in the first one, where she just the concept of like her husband cheats, she doesn't have a relationship with him, they lost the baby, she's an alcoholic,
Mm,
all of that and what they're dealing with, like it's very easy to miss the things that might be happening with your this adopted child when like there's so much going on in your architectural beautiful house. Because I think he's an architect in that or whatever. um
Something like
yeah.
because
that.
Yeah.
she was a music teacher or whatnot, and like she was allowed to like not work, and like they still had enough to like be in that house.
She taught at Yale.
Yeah. um so I agree with that. That was my long-winded answer of being like there are things I like about both, but the second twist doesn't work as well if you didn't see the first twist, yeah, in my
Right.
opinion,
Mm.
because
Right.
the strength of the second one is that it doesn't repeat the first one.
Exactly.
um
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Exactly.
Should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Yeses.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
For those of you who don't know, the 4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions, where we are ranking these, how well the movie does these, 1 through 10. So let's start with Nikisha this time. Nikisha, skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. We'll hold up on your suggestions. What would you get? We're just going to do Orphan First Kill.
Great. For skulls, I have said this before, but I rank these based on how well we can discuss mental health on this podcast, not necessarily how they portray mental health and human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give this a 6 because I had a lot to fucking talk about. For scares, it wasn't scary as it was just very tense. So I'm going to give it a 3. And for shakes, I'm going to give it a 7 because of the twist. And I will say it is, I don't know if you felt awkward in this at all, but just watching it in general, I felt awkward and icky that it's a girl and her interactions with these grown men,
Yeah.
even though, especially because when she was an actual, the actor was a child, and then interacting with these older men, it was just very ugh, and I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
that's, I can't shake that because
Mm-hmm.
that was really creepy. But yeah.
All right, Jamie.
So for skulls, I gave it a 5.
Yes.
It lost like man, half the points just from the whole beginning of this movie. But I agree. I think that like there's something to these fruitful discussions that we're able to have about these movies, and especially a movie like this where there's just so much to talk about.
Hmm.
But I will say, like, yeah, some of the decisions in the beginning don't really make sense for me, so it loses 5 points.
Yeah.
Scares, this movie isn't really scary. I gave it a 3. More so because I guess I've just let my brain like go down a rabbit hole of like, what did Gunnar do? Like,
Yeah.
what's his deal? What did he do? He's messed up. I want to know more, and like that freaks me out. Were you gonna say something?
Oh, this is a guess, total guess. My feeling was that he was having some sort of PTSD when he threw her down the stairs, because he started to freak out when he throws fake Esther down the stairs. I can
Hmm.
imagine that like they got into a similar like scuffle and he threw her
Mm.
down the stairs and like broke her neck or something like that. That's
Oh.
my guess. Only
Mhm.
because it's the only moment in the movie that like he kind of has a moment to himself. And
Mhm.
but that's total me doing my own narrative in my head, filling in the blanks. I know the movie is not very clear about that.
Yeah. I can buy that.
Mhm.
Cool.
Um, Where was I?
Your
Oh,
shakes.
shakes.
Yeah.
Shakes.
Thank you. So I'm gonna give this a 6. That twist was nuts. That twist, I truly like. I was like giddy when it happened. It just like it was really exciting. I think it was one of the first times in a very long time that I was truly shocked by a movie. I also
Mhm.
did not cheat. I did not read the plot summary ahead of this. So like
Good
truly was
job.
actually wildly surprised.
Yes.
Yeah, it was also interesting because I don't know why I didn't do it to myself this time, but usually I'm like, well, Julia Stiles is a well-known actress. Like, I feel like she wouldn't have signed on to just be like the rich mom who gets duped, because Vera
Yeah.
Farmiga signed
Mm.
on to the first one, and she was the rich mom that got duped, but there was a lot more layers to her character with the
Right.
with the stillborn and like all of that stuff. And so, but I just ignored it because like it's just an orphan movie, whatever. And then the twist came. I was like, "You dumb idiot! Of course they hired her to like be this psycho, to be the stew. No, be the Billy.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, Skulls is a 3.
Mm.
Uh, I just think it does more harm to a lot of these things than it helps it.
Mm.
Although
Fair.
I agree with Nikisha, we had some spectacular discussions here today. Um,
Yes.
Scares, not scary. I gave it a 2. What scares me the most is that like now I'm gonna get nervous every time I eat mac and cheese. Um,
Oh no.
and then Shakes 6.5. This was a
Okay.
memorable, like this was a twisty that I'll
Yeah.
whether or not I remember this whole movie, I will absolutely remember um the moment of the twist and the moment that Jamie and I had, and like pausing it, jaws on the floor, having literally just
Mhm.
talked about how this is just the first movie again, and then like 2 seconds later when she shows up at the cop's
Nikisha.
house, I was like, what are we doing here? I'm like, oh no. First, I thought you said it earlier in this episode, Nikisha, where you were like, the reveal happened too early. Like,
Yes.
like she found the book and she realized it. The sergeant suit. Like, we're halfway through the movie. Like, I was very confused, and then that scene happened. I was like, oh, I have goosebumps right now just thinking about the twist.
Yes.
Wild.
It's so
Um,
good.
all right, let's go through suggestions. Jamie, let's start with you. Will you have a suggestion for this movie to pair with it?
I do, and I had forgotten it, and then I remembered it again. So I'm really happy that I
Yay.
did because I mentioned it, or you mentioned it, and then I was like, "Oh yes, I did watch that movie. I will suggest that." So thanks to you, producer Brian, I am going to recommend Case 39, starring Renee Zellweger
Oh.
as a social worker.
I haven't watched that either.
Oh, it's fine, but it does very much pair well with this.
Okay. Work. I'm gonna be
Mhm.
easy slash cheat. I mean, you have to do them as a pair. Orphan and Orphan
Yeah,
First Kill.
I think you have to.
You have to. That's my
Agreed.
suggestion.
You have to.
I'm gonna go with that 90s hit from actors Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood, The Good Son.
I've never
Hmm.
seen that.
Oh, you okay? I won't say anything more than that. Essentially, like
Okay.
Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood, when they're young,
Yeah.
are playing like cousins, where the Macaulay Culkin ends up living with his cousin's family because his mother dies, and
Mm.
it's some devious stuff happens.
It
So
kind of sounds
Mm.
like the Glass House.
which one's the Glass
Have y'all
House?
seen um what is her name? I have to find the actress,
Brie
but it's when
Larson?
no. But
Oh, that's the
these
Glass
kids,
Castle.
yes.
How many glass
These
things are there?
They
brother and
call me
sister, their
Mr.
parents die.
Glass.
And their parents'
Oh,
friends adopt
Lily
them.
Sobieski.
Yes. Yes.
She
What else was she in?
Lily Sobieski was in that Joan of Arc made for TV movie, I
That's
think.
yes, her. Mhm.
But she's
Watched
also
that in school.
famously, of course, in the incredible film. Well, she's in Deep Impact, but the incredible film Never Been Kissed.
Oh, she's the
I haven't watched
friend.
it in
Yeah,
so
She
long.
was Drew Barrymore's friend
she's
in
also in
that. Yeah.
Joyride. But anyway, back to Lily
Yes,
Hmm.
yes,
Sobieski in
yes.
the
I was
Glass
like, she was
House.
in something
Yeah.
scary-ish
But
adjacent.
Cool.
fantastic.
Yeah, great.
So that is all of our time with this wonderful film with a capital F, because you all need to watch this. There's so many good things. You can follow us on all social medias and now the YouTubes at Talk Horror Pod for our social medias. Find us on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and message us and talk to us about how you felt about this episode or how you felt about the movies we've discussed and all the things, or just say hi. But make sure you subscribe and follow us. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
Yeah, listen to us wherever you can get podcasts. So that includes Spotify, that includes Stitcher, that includes Google, that includes all the places where podcasts exist. Mostly we're on Apple. I mean, we're on mostly all of them, but we're on all of them. But Apple Podcasts, rate and review us 5 stars, please.
Thank
And thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Brian, run us back that quote from the beginning
Oh, which
that you
one?
liked. I forgot which one, but it was great.
All macaws are parrots, but not all
Mhm.
parrots are fucking macaws.
Yes.
And then, of course,
Bam, mic drop.
he calls her a mutant grifter.
Grifter.
A mutant
Love
grifter.
that.
I love it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.